So with that said, let's take a look at number 10. We have artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence, or AI, is progressing really fast. And scientists, they actually estimate that there is a 50% chance of AI being able to perform most human tasks as well as humans, or if not better, by the year 2050. Now, a big concern is that they will become too good at their jobs. Like, for example, if you ask a car with AI to take you to the mall as fast as possible, it might get you there being chased by cops, covered up with coffee and vomit, all of that. Because, of course, it literally did its job, got you there as fast as possible, but it may not have necessarily been the way in which you actually wanted to go. So things like that are a huge concern. And also, it's a scary thought that AI could fall into the hands of the wrong person. Many people believe that this is literally how the world is going to end. Humans are replaced with robots. Number 9 brings us the supervolcanoes. Scientists have used certain calculations to predict and determine the eruption pattern of the planet's supervolcanoes. Now, the eruption of one of these volcanoes will literally destroy all the life on planet Earth, because it's estimated that the sunlight would actually be blocked out because of the ashes for several years. Now, among the 4 supervolcanoes that are located on Earth, the one named Yellowstone, according to calculations, can actually erupt at any time. Number 8 brings us geomagnetic reversal. So geologists observed a very drastic change in the Earth's magnetic field. Apparently it drops by 6% each century. So some believe that a geomagnetic reversal of the poles, it's completely inevitable. However, even though this theory has a lot of supporters, you can't necessarily calculate exactly when these reversals are going to happen, because reversals tend to vary from thousands of years to millions of years. It's just almost impossible to pinpoint an accurate time of when it will happen. Now, while the effects cannot actually be predicted, but what we do know is that when this point is reached, the reversal point, the planet Earth is going to be completely exposed to the charged particles sent from the sun. Another one is galactic alignment. Now, this prediction, it actually stated that at the winter solstice of December 21st, 2012, the crossing point of the ecliptic, which is the location of the solar system, will actually align with the dark center of the galaxy. So this event takes place every 36 years, but that particular one in December 21st, 2012 was supposed to be different because the sun was to appear in the front of the center of the galaxy. This alignment was supposed to cause several occurrences on Earth, like one being the Earth would be sucked into the black hole located at the center of our Milky Way galaxy. Well, obviously December 21st, 2012 happened and we're still here, but could this actually happen in the future? Solar storms are at number 6. So every 11 years, the sun experiences changes in the magnetic field, which results in solar flares and spots, which send charged particles towards the Earth. We talked about charged particles a little bit, but according to NASA, the solar storms will reach a peak. And now the Earth, though, is protected by a magnetic field, for now at least. But power grids and electric devices, they could be seriously damaged and affected. But if the Earth's magnetic field were to change somehow, it would result in these solar charges burning up the Earth.
Visible signs of deep magnetic activity that affects the whole solar system.
Number 5 brings us the worldwide pandemic. So, of course, it's easy to understand why this theory is a thing, because you can see the devastating effects of various pandemics that we've seen in recent history and in recent days. And on top of that, of course, there's various biological weapons that some countries actually have in their possession. So, I mean, any kind of misfiring of these weapons, or just any sort of biological leak of a particular virus or anything, definitely it could happen, and that's why a lot of people believe that this is how the world is going to end. Now, number 4, we're going to switch over into the world of religion. For the next few, we have Kali Yuga. So the Hindu religion breaks down time into 4 distinct cycles, and the last of these cycles is going to be Kali Yuga. Now, the sacred Hindu texts claim that this age of the god Kali is actually leading to the end of humanity. This is where humans deteriorate greatly because people are going to forget about morals. And this, of course, opens up way more suffering and war and sicknesses, illnesses, diseases, viruses, all of that. and then eventually leads to the end of the world. Number 3 is Islamic eschatology. Now, the Day of Judgment is described in the religion of Islam as the end of life, and it's going to be followed by a resurrection and a judgment period. So there's multiple verses in the Quran that mention the last judgment. There's also going to be a great time of trouble described in the Islamic hadith, and the false messiah or the antichrist, aka Dajjal, will appear, and he will deceive a whole lot of people. Now, the return of Isa, or Jesus in Islam, is going to be the event that actually destroys Dajjal. And then from there, a whole lot of cataclysmic events happen. And there we have the end of the world. Now, number 2 brings us the book of Revelation from the Bible. So this is according to Christian theology. So yeah, similarly in the Bible, John's book of Apocalypse or Revelation is one of the most known books in parts of the world where Christianity is the main religion. So the book describes several events like severe plagues falling on the earth, beasts coming out of the ocean and land. And yes, there's a lot of interpretations that say that those aren't actual literal beasts that come up. But in any case, it paints a lot of different end of the world scenarios. It's probably one of the most popular end time prophecies because it states that the Messiah is going to return to save his chosen people, and then all life on the earth is going to be destroyed. There's going to also be a judgment period, and then the world is going to be created new, and the chosen people are going to live on that new world. But finally, at number 1, this one transcends religion and cultures. Most people actually believe that the world is going to end with the World War III. So there's many theorists that strongly believe that a huge global conflict that's going to start between 2 superpowers is inevitable. It's going to trigger World War III and the use of nuclear weapons, which will of course turn the planet into a complete wasteland. Now, World War III is an actual possibility, not necessarily with nations using nuclear force, but also because of several factors like lack of fresh water, economic depression, as well as limited supplies of resources like oil and other fossil fuels. So either way you put it, huge amount of chaos. So either way you look at it, there's going to be a lot of chaos, a lot of destruction, and of course that will lead to the end of the world. So at number 10, we have The Wandering Earth in 2019. One of the biggest as well as the highest grossing movies in 2019 is actually this end of the world movie that not many people have heard of. That's because it's huge over in China where it was made, but in the US movie market, you can see it now thanks to Netflix. Now, it follows a typical disaster movie concept, and it follows a group of scientists who look to physically move the Earth to get it away from the expanding sun while avoiding a collision with Jupiter. At number 9, we have the movie Retreat, and that was back in 2011. Now, there's a married couple that's looking into reconnecting, and they decide to go away for a vacation on a remote island on the coast of Scotland. Now, their holiday is interrupted by a soldier who just shows up at their front door and says that the outside world has been completely decimated by an outbreak of an airborne disease. Yeah, creepy. And then they gotta hide out together until it's safe to go out into the world again. Kind of similar to, what's happening now, right? I was outside yesterday. Just had to go to the store to get some groceries, obviously leaving just for the essentials. And people are like, they didn't even want me to look in their direction. And everybody passing by was like, but I digress. Let's get back to this episode. Number 8, we have the movie Legion. This one came out in 2010. Now, this one is about the end of the world in a more biblical sense. There's a group of strangers that meet up at a dusty roadside diner. They come under attack by these demonic forces. Now, their only chance for survival is with the archangel named Michael, who informs this pregnant woman that her unborn child is humanity's last hope. Now, just here before that, back in 2009, there was this film called The Road, and it was based on a book by Cormac McCarthy. And now this film follows a man and his son who try to survive a post-apocalyptic world. So they managed to avoid a lot of violent scavengers as well as other evil forces as they make their own way down the road, hence the name of the movie, trying to head towards the coast where it might be a lot warmer. In the same year, we also saw the movie called The Knowing. Now there's a professor played by Nicolas Cage, the legendary actor. He retrieves this code that was buried in an elementary school time capsule, and he believes that he actually cracked this code. Now it's a message about the end of the world, and he has to figure out if he's right and if the impending disasters can actually be stopped. Number 5, we have Day After Tomorrow. A lot of you should remember this movie. It was huge when it came out. Now, in this movie, it embodies the term of climate crisis to the fullest extent. Extreme weather breaks out across the country, from tornadoes to deep freezes. Now, there's a sudden worldwide storm that begins to plunge on the entire planet, and it puts the planet in another ice age. Now, in the movie, there's a paleoclimatologist named Jack Hall who undertakes a huge dangerous journey to New York City to save his son from this entire disaster. Miracle Mile comes in at number 4. Now this film takes us back to 1988. The characters Harry and Julie, they suffer a misconnection at the worst possible time. So right before the breakout of a full-out nuclear war between the United States and the Soviet Union. The film follows Harry as he tries to find Julie before the end of the world. Oh, how sad. The movie at number 3 is 12 Monkeys from the year 1996. There's a deadly virus that wipes out the entire world, and it causes a few survivors to have to go underground. Bruce Willis stars in this film, and he's given the task of traveling back in time to find the source of the epidemic in hopes that it could actually be completely reversed. If you've seen that film and you actually loved it, you could also check out La Jetée, which is the French movie that it's actually based on. I didn't even know that. Number 2, we have the movie 2012, back in the year 2009. Now, the plot follows this geologist named Adrian Helmsley, and he discovers that the Earth's crust is actually becoming a lot more unstable, and this is after a massive solar flare that shifted the alignment of the planets. Now, in the film, there's another character named Jackson Curtis, and he attempts to bring his family to safety as the world is being destroyed by a series of extreme natural disasters, all caused by this shift in alignment. Of course, it plays off of the whole end of the world in 2012 conspiracy that was going on. The Mayan calendars ended. People are like, okay, it's going to be the end of the world. Yeah, this movie tried to play a lot up into it. But now there's one movie that had to make it to the number 1 spot, and it is the Book of Eli from 2009. Now this movie is based around a nuclear apocalypse, and Denzel Washington stars in this film, and he's a lone nomad named Eli who actually possesses something that he thinks can actually save the world. At least that's what the voice in his head is telling him. Now the book that Eli is carrying is actually the Bible, and he thinks the Bible can restore what humanity has lost. And his enemy in the film is actually reading Mussolini and believes other books are more useful for taking over the world than the Bible. Now, starting at number 10, we have the return of Jesus. So in the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verses 29 to 31, as well as other places in the New Testament, the words of Jesus are recorded about 2,000 years ago that he will return in the future to judge the living and judge the dead. Now, of course, this is a core Christian belief that is reflected in the Apostles' Creed, which is a summary of the Christian beliefs. Now, it says, immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. And at the time, the sign of the Son of Man will appear in the sky, and all the nations of the earth will mourn. They will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of the sky with power and great glory, and he will send his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the 4 winds, from one end of the heavens to the other. We're going to be talking a little bit more about that near the end of this episode, by the way, but the next prophecy at number 9 is the gospel being preached. So in the book of Matthew 24 verses 14, it says, and this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. By the way, if you don't know, the gospel means the good news, and in this context, it's the good news about Jesus and what he offers in terms of salvation and eternal life. Now, of course, with increasing worldwide availability of TV and the internet, Christians believe that now there's a greater potential for the gospel to be preached to everyone, everywhere, on the planet. So pretty much we're living in this prophecy happening right now. There's also a prophecy of false messiahs, and Jesus prophesied in the book of Matthew also that there would be false messiahs that come before his return. So in Matthew 24 verses 23 to 25, we see the following statement. And at that time, if anyone says to you, look, here is the Christ, or there he is, do not believe it. For false Christs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and miracles to deceive even the elect, if that were possible. See, I have told you ahead of time. There's also mention of an unequaled destruction and a time of suffering. So it's prophesied that yes, this is actually going to be a real time. People are going to be suffering a lot. Now, many people have offered their different interpretations and opinions on this prophecy, and some claim that this has already happened or is currently happening or is still going to happen in the future. Now, some opinions involve claims of widespread destruction and nuclear war, etc. And now Christians do believe, though, that no matter what happens in this world, no matter how bad things get, God is ultimately still in control. And we find in the book of Matthew, again, in chapter 24, verses 21 and 22, it says, for then there will be a great distress unequaled from the beginning of the world until now, and never to be equaled again. If those days had not been cut short, no one would survive, but for the sake of the elect, those days will be shortened. Another very interesting prophecy that takes us into the book of Luke of the New Testament is a destruction that will happen in Jerusalem. So in the book of Luke, in chronological order, that is the third gospel, specifically in chapter 21, verses 23 to 24, it says, how dreadful it will be in those days for pregnant women and nursing mothers. There will be great distress in the land and wrath against this people. They will fall by the sword and will be taken as prisoners to all nations. Now Jerusalem will be trampled on by the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. So we see here in the Bible that Jesus prophesied that the Gentiles, which is pretty much another word for non-Jews, would actually trample upon Jerusalem until the end of times. And actually about 40 years after Jesus prophesied that, the Romans actually came in, they destroyed Jerusalem and the temple and forced the Jews into exile. And the temple to this day in Jerusalem still has not been rebuilt. Well, at number 5, there's a prophecy of the love of people growing colder. Now in the book of Matthew 24 and 12, it records this. And because sinfulness shall abound, the love of many shall grow cold. Now, it's not just talking about the followers of the faith, but also people everywhere. No need to elaborate on this one. Just look at your local news and you'll see what people are doing in the world. There's also a prophecy coming at number 4 about wars, famines, and earthquakes. And this is what the Bible actually has to say about this. And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be great famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. And you can find that in the book of Matthew chapter 24 verses 6 to 8. And as a matter of fact, a lot of prophecies are in the book of Matthew and the whole New Testament in general. But either way, it can be pretty unsettling thinking about the amount of earthquakes, floods, droughts, fires, famines, plagues that have happened quite frequently actually. Now I did touch on this one earlier, but prophecy number 3 is about false teachers. Now there are many men who will not listen or obey the truth, whatever that truth is. And this prophecy is specifically talking about false teachers. Those people that promote lies to actually deceive people, which is actually their intention. This is not necessarily referring to people who are simply just ignorant, but either way, for whatever reason, people out there are purposely going to promote lies. Prophecy number 2 in this episode is a 7-headed wild beast. Now, this wild beast with 7 heads is introduced in the book of Revelation, which is actually the last book in the Bible. And it actually represents a world political system. Even though nations may agree on a few things, they unite in their determination to actually maintain their authority rather than submitting to another kingdom or nation. Based on popular interpretation, this nation will also join forces to battle against God's army, but this war will result in the nations being completely destroyed. And you can find this in the book of Revelation chapter 16 verses 14 and 16, as well as chapter 19 verses 19 and 20. And the final prophecy that I want to mention in this episode from the Bible is the rapture. Now, it's safe to say that most Christians believe in the rapture. However, a smaller amount believe in a secret rapture. How the prophecy of the secret rapture is explained is that it's the first stage that occurs when Jesus Christ comes in the air in secret for his saints to remove them from the earth up to heaven. Now, this is called a rapture, and that word rapture comes from the Latin word rapturo, which means to catch away. Now, the belief of the secret rapture is supported by various biblical texts. For example, in the book of Genesis 5 verses 24, we see Enoch, and also in the book of Hebrews 11 and 5, Enoch is mentioned. And also the prophet Elijah in the book of 2 Kings chapter 2 verses 1 and 11. These guys were both raptured up to heaven. Now, most Christians, however, believe that the rapture will not be a secret, and as a matter of fact, they believe that everybody will know when this thing is happening. Those who died holy will come out of their graves, and those who are alive and holy will be caught up in the clouds with Jesus and his angels and taken to heaven, leaving all those people who are unholy dead on the earth for a certain period of time. Starting at fact number 10, let's talk about the Mahdi. Now, the Mahdi is believed to be a future Muslim world leader who's not only going to rule over the Islamic world, but also the rest of the non-Muslim world. According to Islam, the Mahdi is said to lead a world revolution that is going to establish a new Islamic world order throughout the entire planet. Now, the Mahdi will establish right and justice in the world, as well as work to eliminate all evil and corruption, and he's going to fight against the enemies of Islam. He'll be reappearing on the appointed day, and then he's going to fight against the forces of evil and lead the world revolution and set up a new world order based on justice, righteousness, as well as virtue. For fact number 9, there's something else that's going to be related to the Mahdi. He said that he's going to discover some previously undiscovered Bible scrolls and even the Ark of the Covenant. Now, there's one hadith according to Kab al-Abar that says this: he will be called Mahdi because he will guide to something hidden and will bring out the Torah and Gospel from a town called Antioch. At the hands of the Mahdi, the Ark of the Covenant will be brought forth from the lake of Tiberias and taken and placed in Jerusalem. So bringing the Ark of the Covenant is gonna help the Mahdi convert those that belong to the religions of Christianity and Judaism, because biblical scrolls as well as the Ark of the Covenant hold a great significance in those two religions. Also, for fact number 8, Isa, also known as Jesus, is going to be the one that kills Dajjal after he's sent by Allah back to the earth. And this is similar to the belief of the second coming of Jesus according to Christianity. Now, Dajjal is the false Messiah who will be blinded in one eye, and he will put the world through the greatest fitna or testing period. According to the hadith narrated by Jami Turmidi, number 2244, it says, the prophet Isa will kill Dajjal at Bab-il-Lud in Israel. Next thing to know is that Jesus will proclaim Islam to be the world religion, and Christians will convert. All other religions will be eliminated as well at that time, and Jesus is going to be the sole ruler of the earth, so he's going to be leading an Islamic theocracy. Every harmful beast will be completely domesticated, and there will be an abundance of rain and a plentiful harvest. All of the war in the world is going to cease, and there's going to be world peace finally, and the reign of Jesus is said to last for about 40 years, and he will go to Mecca on a regular basis to perform rituals of pilgrim known as Hajj. Also, 21 years into his reign, he will marry and he's going to have some children, and then 19 years later he will pass away, and he will be buried in Medina next to the Prophet Muhammad, where he will wait the day of resurrection like all other people who passed on before him. When Jesus dies, it's said that all believers will also die peacefully. Number 6 brings us to Yajuj and Majuj. This happens before the reign of Jesus, the release of Yajuj and Majuj, also known as Gog and Magog. And this, by the way, is mentioned in the Quran, Surah 18 verses 83 to 99, as well as Surah 21 verses 96. Now, Gog and Magog, or Yajuj and Majuj, are people who are very vicious, who are trapped behind a barrier currently and are to be released before the end of the world. They will invade the land and they will besiege Jesus and his followers, and Jesus will pray to Allah to save them, and Allah is going to respond and answer the prayer by destroying the armies of Yajuj and Majuj. For number 5, before the end of the world comes, there's going to be a good beast that will come from out of the earth, and this beast will tell the world to recognize Allah as the only God, the supreme God. Now the beast will wear the ring of Solomon, and he'll also carry the rod of Moses. Also, those who reject his message will have the word infidel written on their foreheads, so they'll be easily distinguishable. The great fire is at number 4. Now this is a fire that's going to break out south of Eden, which is believed to be modern day Yemen. The blaze of fire is going to spread across the entire planet, and it will be so intense that it will drive everyone to go to the place of final assembly before the day of resurrection. Now that place is believed to be Syria, which includes modern day Palestine. For fact number 3, at the time of judgment, each person's book of deeds is going to be read out loud, and that's where every single small deed and every great deed is recorded. But the actions before somebody has reached the age of adolescence are going to be completely omitted. So even the smallest acts will not be ignored. In the Quran, it says this: that day the people will depart separated into categories to be shown the results of their deeds. So whoever does an atom's weight of good will see it, and whoever does an atom's weight of evil will see it. That's found in Surah 99 verses 6 to 8. Another thing I want to mention is that those who have passed away will stand in a massive group awaiting a scroll that's going to detail their good deeds and sinful acts, like I just mentioned, and then this is going to lead to their ultimate judgment. The Prophet Muhammad is said to be the first who's going to resurrect from the grave. So if a person did good deeds, they're going to go to Jannah, and if a person is completely unrighteous, they're going to go to Jahannam. That is referred to hell in Islam. Punishments are going to include severe pain or shame, and there is going to also be a punishment of the grave, and those are for the people who disbelieved between death and the resurrection. So in Islam, they believe that there's going to be angels that punish people while they're waiting for their final punishment if they're evil, and if they're good people in the grave, they're going to rest in peace. And finally, in the afterlife, the evildoers will not be able to escape justice, and the victims of those who suffered in the world are going to be repaid for their pain. People who spend their lives living responsibly and avoiding temptations to commit all types of sin, they're going to be rewarded. And as mentioned in the Quran, it says, "And Allah created the heavens and the earth in truth, so that every soul may be recompensed for what it has earned, and they will not be wronged." And that's in Surah 45 verses 22.